G'day guys and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be a tutorial on how to do a thorough clean of your four-wheel drive underneath and on top after you've been four-wheel driving. So I've recently just come back from the southwest of WA and I've got the car absolutely caked in mud, both on top, underneath, engine bay, in the sills and the interior. So today we're just going to focus on the underneath of the car and the paintwork itself. I already have a dedicated video on how to do your engine bay, and later on I'll be releasing one on how to do your interior. So let's have a look at what we're working with today. So yesterday I started with the underneath of the vehicle. I did a full wheels off wash. So that includes taking each of the four wheels off, cleaning the wheels themselves, the wheel arches and all underneath the vehicle. So let's go back and I'll show you some of the footage that I got from that. Okay, so now that we've got those wheels off, it's time to get in there and clean it up. So we're going to be using the same sort of technique we use for an engine bay clean. So check out that video if you want to see that. But in summary, we're going to use a light degreasing mix, keeping away from your bushes, your CV joints and other delicate areas like your brakes. But you're going to be using the degreaser there on your chassis rails, the metal components and all the inner guards. Going to be using some brushes here. We've got a selection of different bristle brushes here to agitate the dirt and get all that to come off. And then we've just got some normal soapy car wash water as well, and that's just going to be used to keep the brushes wet and then do an overall clean at the end, or to see how it turns out. So let's get straight into cleaning this one up. So guys, I think it goes without saying, this step is absolutely not necessary, and it's something you don't have to do every time you wash the car. For me personally, it's something that I do about once a year or after a big four-wheel driving trip. Now I just want to mention as well, the degreaser that I'm using today is the CT18 made by a company called Chemtech. Now it is 100% safe to use on pieces in your engine bay and also in applications like this in your wheel arches. All your CV joints, steering arms and whatnot do have rubber boots on them protecting them, but again you want to make sure you don't spray directly into the boot seals there or into the engine bay, making sure that when you do rinse the vehicle off you can get all of that degreasing agent off so it doesn't sit there and eat away at any of the lubricant. So you have it, that side's done. There's no real need to dry it off. Obviously being the exterior of the car, it's all waterproof, watertight, whatnot. If you want to, you can. I'm just going to let it drip dry. I'm going to get over to doing the other side. So there's two main reasons that I do these wheels off thorough cleans underneath the car and in the wheel arches once every year or after a big four-wheel driving trip. The first reason is to prevent the long-term build-up of dirt and grime on some of the moving parts or some of the bolts that you might need to access if you need to do roadside repairs or regular maintenance. And the second reason is just to make it look good. The mud and dirt does sort of take away that depth of blackness in the wheel arch here, and cleaning it up, degreasing it and making it look good really does add to an overall detailed vehicle when the car is finished. So when it comes to washing the wheels, the good thing about having a wheels off wash is that it's so easy to access. So I'm using the same sort of techniques I'm using on the wheel wells, a light coating of degreaser, agitate all the dirt around, get it all off, flip the wheel over and do the same thing again. We're not looking for a showroom finish, but a nice clean wheel with no stick and mud means that this wheel is going to be nice and balanced when we put it back onto the car. So wheel wells are almost dry, the wheels have been cleaned. Now it's a good chance while the car's on jacks just to try and get up and under the front of the car and try and get any mud and gunk stuck in these bash plates and all the way along the chassis rails. Now you want to be very careful while the car's on jack stands. Even though I'm pretty confident that this car is pretty solid, you want to try and limit how much you got underneath the car just in case the worst were to happen. When we're getting in there and trying to get rid of all the mud and gunk
within the chassis rails and all around as well. Now you can use some degreaser spray for this, but again, just be careful of any parts that are regularly greased. You don't want that degreaser taking away their grease and drying up that lubrication. So let's get underneath and start flushing it out.
So just like the wheel arches, this step can be taken as far as you want it to. I normally give the front bash plates a quick clean over just because you can see them from the front of the vehicle. But going back on the vehicle, I just use this garden hose sprayer that I've got here just to sort of pressurize the dirt out of the chassis rails and all the cracks and crevices. Now you can see here one of the body mounts on the 200 series Landcruiser, and they are particularly bad at holding some of the dirt, mud and grime that flicks up from your wheels, both at the front and the back of the vehicle. So it's a good idea to spend a little bit of time there and really try and get all of that dirt out. Now this step is particularly important if you are driving on the beach or something like a salt lake where salt type materials might be caught up underneath your vehicle. If they get caught in your vehicle for a long period of time, it does increase that chance of surface rust and then body and chassis rust over time. So really get in there, try and scoop that dirt out, clean it all out, make sure your chassis rails are clean and you'll be right. So anyone who thought my car was relatively clean before we started here, you can see from the driveway, this is all the dirt that has come out just from cleaning the underneath of the vehicle.
Okay, so now that the wheels off wash has been done, it's time to do the paintwork and everything that you can see on top of the vehicle. So let's go through what things I use, and then we'll go through step by step how I go about cleaning my car and ensuring that you've got that perfect showroom style finish at the end. So those who watch my channel know that I am not brand loyal. I just use products that I believe work, and this is based on the years of experience that I've had with them. So here is the basics that I use to wash the vehicle to get all that mud and grime off. Now always use the 2-bucket method. Now the reason you want to do that is you want to have one full of soapy water with one of your washers there and the other one full of fresh water. So once you've wiped the vehicle down with one of your sponges, you can wash it in the fresh water, getting rid of all that dirt and grit out of the mitt before putting it back into the soapy water, making sure that you're not adding any more dirt and scratches into the clear coat of your 4-wheel drive. So that's why I've got 2 buckets there. Now the washes I use, I've just got a couple here. I've got a basic Armor All wash and wax. Now this one here, it's almost empty at the moment, is just what I use for the underneath, the wheels, the bull bar, and some of the dirtier sections of the car before switching the water for the dedicated paint wash. Now I just use this because it's a little bit cheaper. It doesn't need anything super. I just need something that's going to get that mud off. Now in terms of the paint wash, I use a Meguiar's wash and wax. It's a little bit more pricey, and this one here is just used to wash the paintwork, the windows, and pretty much the body of the car, excluding things like the bull bar and the wheels, the side steps, and the rear area. Now in order to actually complete the wash, I use a selection of brushes and sponges. So I have 3 sponges here, ranging from one that will only be used on metal parts like bull bars, wheels and side steps, and won't touch the paint ever. Then I've got one here that I use for things like the roof rack. So not really paint areas, but just something that can get a little bit dirty on there. Now this one here is one that I've dedicated to only paint. So this is the cleanest sponge out of all of them, and I try and keep it free from dirt and grit, so it's not going to add any more swirl marks into the paintwork itself. Along with that, I've got a variety of different brushes and bristles, ranging from wheel brushes, both your bristle type and also a microfiber one, which is very handy for these method rims. I've got a tyre brush, which also comes in handy for metal parts like your bull bar, very handy for things like underneath your car and your engine bay, and then a couple of bristle style brushes. So one here with quite firm bristles, and then another one here with soft ones. Now these ones here come in extremely handy, and one of my new favourites, this one in particular, is a Bowden Zone. It comes in a pack of 4 and highly recommend them. For drying the vehicle, I've got a selection of different chamois. Now the reason I've got a few is I actually use a towel clean up the majority water off the paint. Again, this is just for paint, keeps it nice and clean, and it really does soak up a lot of that moisture. For the additional areas, I just use a large chamois. So here we go, got an extremely large chamois, and this here is just to take up any of the extra water that the towel can't soak up and start to work on things like the roof rack and other slightly messier areas. And then I've got a couple of just cheap chamois as well, and again, these are for some of the dirty areas that might still have a little bit of dirt on them, things like your side step bull bars, and also the sills of your vehicle as well, which we'll get into later on in the video. Okay, so we're going to start with the bull bar in this instance. This is probably going to be the thing that takes the longest, aside from an under body clean. And so what we've got here is just our Armor All wash and wax, the cheaper wash and wax, plus a dirty sponge and a soft bristle brush. And this should be all that's required, just to do over all the bull bar, the lights, winch box, number plate, and all the cracks and crevices in here. And I should mention as well, you're not going to need to use a 2-bucket method when you're doing things like bull bars and hard surfaces. That is only really needed for the paintwork, just to prevent those surface clear coat swirls and scratches.
So cleaning your bull bars is really going to depend on the type of driving you're doing. If you've got bugs and some lots of sticky dirt stuck to the front of the bull bar, it might pay to use something like a bug and tar remover just to ease that off without having to scrub too hard. Now normally I go over the full bull bar like I am here with the sponge, just trying to get rid of all that dirt and mud, and then I go back over it again using the detailing brush. Now that detailing brush really has paid for itself. It gets to places that are physically impossible to get a microfiber sponge to, like these spotlights here, the brackets. There's some bolt holes underneath the spotlights that you just can't get a brush to, around the winch box and the center there around the number plate and the winch plate. It really does help, and it really gives that finish that you want to a detailed vehicle that you just can't get without a brush like this.
Okay, so that's the bull bar done. Now we're going to start working our way around the sides to the side steps and around to the rear bumper, where a little bit more dirty surfaces exist, and we'll do the same technique there.
So the reason that I go around and do the side steps and the rear bar with that same dirty water is it just doesn't need a premium car wash like the Meguiar's Ultimate Wash and Wax. These sections are by far the dirtiest section of the car that's left, and there's no point in grabbing your paint wash and your paint mitt, scooping that up, and then risk rubbing some of that dirt into the top sections of your car that are obviously a lot cleaner, and adding in new swirls and scratches over time as you wash the vehicle. Now I do use the older sponge and the cheaper wash on the bottom section of that plastic rear bar. However, that plastic rear bar has already seen better days, and I'm not too concerned about swirls and scratches right down in that lower quarter panel. I'd rather get rid of the heavy dirt on this particular sponge rather than using the dedicated paint sponge.
Okay, so in terms of method of cleaning a car, when you start cleaning your car, you always want to start top to bottom. So that's starting from the roof rack up here, getting in all these cracks and crevices. There's a whole lot of dust and dirt sitting inside these rails, also underneath the rack as well. Now the Rhino rack does make it a little bit difficult to clean underneath the rack here, but it is manageable, sticking a wash mitt into each of these sections. Now something you want to spend a little bit of time doing. The other thing you want to pay attention to is the rails that it attaches to as well. Now it's a little bit of a groove in the roof rack, and dirt and debris can get stuck in there. So make sure you get a hose and really squirt out the rails here, trying to remove all of that dirt and debris from there so it doesn't come down onto your vehicle later on in the wash.
So for me, the main objective for cleaning the roof is just to get rid of any of that dirt and debris that might fall down onto the car or the paintwork later on. Not many people are going to get up onto your roof and see the cleanness of your roof, but it is nice to know there's no sand, mud or other material up there that's going to fall down and potentially land on your paintwork, and therefore wrecking that clean finish.
Okay, so we've done those dirty sections of the car, including the bull bar, the rear plastic bar, the side steps, and we've also washed and cleaned the roof. So now it's time to do the sides of the vehicle. So you're going to want to choose a side to start with that's in the shade. At the moment the sun's directly behind the car, so we'll just start with this side here. Then we're going to want to start from top to bottom using that dedicated paint wash mitt, nice and clean. We're going to start from the top just because the top of the car is generally cleaner than the bottom, and all the dirt will slowly pull to the bottom as we wash the car, and that's going to eliminate the chances of swirls and scratch in your paintwork. So you get those 2 buckets, so we'll chuck them around here, wet the car down, ensuring the soap studs don't dry onto your paint, as it may etch little marks into your paint. It's just going to make it harder down the track if you do want to do a detail, and then we'll just work our way around the vehicle.
Now the first thing you want to do when you're washing your vehicle is give it a good thorough rinse down. Now if you have a high pressure cleaner, that would work well. I'm just using a garden hose on its stream and its highest setting, and you want to try and get rid of any of that loose dirt and debris that might still be on the exterior of the paintwork. You don't want your paint mitt running over that dirt and debris or the sand that's still on the exterior, picking it up and then introducing new swirls and scratches down the track when you wash other parts of the vehicle. The idea behind a good wash is to make it as frictionless as possible. Every time you touch the paintwork of the car, you are to some degree going to be adding some marks to the vehicle. The cleaner your sponge, the lighter your press, the less likely that's going to occur. Now, probably one of the most important techniques to use while washing your vehicle is to wash it in a straight line motion rather than a swirl or circular motion. Like I said before, if you have any paint, dirt or grit inside those wash mitts, rubbing it in a circular motion is going to add circular type swirls and scratch marks just on the clear coat of the car, and the sun will pick that up from any angle. Now, if you wash it in a straight line motion, preferably a horizontal motion, it's going to match those from your pinstripes from the bush, but also it means that the sun's only going to be able to pick up those scratches from a one particular angle, which means that your car's going to look really good from most angles. However, you're going to notice those swells and scratches on that one angle. But that is a lot better than seeing circular swell marks from all angles. So keep in mind fuel caps and also accents like these silver bars on this Landcruiser. Get your detailing brush out and just give them a quick tidy up around the outside, just to ensure no dirt has stuck in those cracks and crevices. Once you've completed one section of the car, make sure to give it a rinse off so the soap suds don't dry on those particular panels, and then move around the car repeating this step on each section. Most importantly, remember to use those straight line motions and working from top to bottom and regularly rinsing your wash mitt into 2 buckets to make sure you have a nice clean mitt.
So there you have it, the vehicle is now washed. You want to grab either a microfiber towel like I've got here or a chamois, and you want to start drying this vehicle down from top to bottom. So let's go ahead and get that done.
So drying the vehicle is very similar to that of washing the vehicle. The 2 most important things you need to remember is light pressure and using those horizontal lines to drag the towel or chamois across. Now, this microfiber towel that I've been using for the last year or so, in my opinion, is so much better than a chamois. It really does absorb the water a lot easier and allows you to dry the car using a lot less pressure. Now keep in mind, reducing the pressure and using those horizontal lines will just prevent swells and scratches being added to the paint, just like we did when we washed the vehicle. And this is going to make your life a lot easier if you were to take the car to a stage 2 paint correction and detail.
Okay, so the vehicle's dry, but it's not over yet. We've still got to do some of the little details that really set the vehicle off and make it different to everybody else's generic wash. So the first one here is the wheels. You just want to make sure you dry them. So with these Method racing rims, they do have a lip at the bottom of them, and they do store a lot of water. If that doesn't dry up, it's just going to attract all the dirt on your first drive, flick all that water up the side of your car, and all that hard work is gone. So just grab an old chamois. This is one of my chamois that I don't use on the paintwork anymore, and I'll just go along and dry the rim up. So we'll get it all dried, all cleaned, and we'll do that on all 4. Okay, so another one of those things is the sills. Now, a lot of people don't get around to doing the sills. They just clean the outside of the car and drive off and happy days. But opening up the car to this is just letting down the rest of the hard work you put into the exterior of the car. So opening each door and doing it individually once the car's done is something that I do every time I wash the vehicle. Obviously at the moment it's quite bad because we have gone full driving. If it's just light dust and a little bit of dirt, I'll just use a chamois, which is quite moist, and then just clean up at edges. But given the fact that there's a little bit of mud in there as well, I'm just going to use the wash basket that we're using to wash the vehicle, plus the little bristle brush, just to get away some of this mud here, and then I'll use a chamois to dry it up. So we'll get along and do that now. Put a bit of water into that chamois there. Just make it a little bit wet just to try and absorb some of that dirt as well. Now, given the fact that we're not actually washing the sill, you just want to make sure you only put a light pressure on this door. You don't want to be pushing that dirt into the paint and then causing it to scratch. So there you go. Just a couple of minutes per door and you end up with a sill that looks a lot better. Now don't forget as well, you've also got to do the door itself. There is going to be mud on the exterior of the door, also the interior of the door panel, and making sure those drain holes on the door are free from any blockages like rocks and mud. You want to make sure if any water were to get inside your door that it can drain freely and not sit in there and corrode and rust away. Okay, so sometimes when you're driving consistent lengths and long distances and you've got the pre-DPF Landcruisers, you can blow a little bit of diesel soot which can stick to the bumper here and doesn't come off very easily with a normal wash. Now in my car it's quite exaggerated because I do run a stone stomper and it causes a little bit of circulation there behind the stone stomper between the bumper and that flap. So therefore it does get a little bit dirty. Now sometimes if it does get too bad, you can see some marks down here as well. I just use this product here, which is Bowden's own orange agent. So it's just a degreaser, but it's safe to use on paintwork. It's PA neutral and non-corrosive. It's a little bit stronger than a general normal wash. So we'll spray that on there and get rid of some of these marks. And it really is as simple as that, and you can see there, those marks are now gone and it's looking a whole lot better. Okay, so we're almost done and the car's looking good, but we're going to do a couple more things just to make it really stand out. So this one I'm going to do now is just a Tyre Shine. Now I've tried a whole lot of Tyre Shines in the past, but this particular one, which is the Turtle Wax Wet and Black Tyre Shine, seems to be quite a good one. So obviously just in a spray bottle here, spray it onto the tyre, let it sit for a couple of minutes and then wipe off the excess. Now I do wear gloves for this. It's not a harmful product or anything like that, but I just do it because it is a little bit messy and it makes your hands really slimy. So I just carry a microfiber towel that I use exclusively just with this product, otherwise it will get everywhere, and then I just spray it on. So we'll get to doing that on all 4 tyres. As we're just letting it rest and soak into the tyre, just use the microfiber towel to get any off spray off the rim itself. Okay, let's do all 4.
One thing to note with Tyre Shine is that it works really well on a clean tyre. So having that wheels off wash yesterday and cleaning the tyre with a light coating of degreaser and scrubbing it down means that I've got a nice clean surface to spray onto, and it's going to stick, last a lot longer and look better for a longer period of time.
So I do find by the time you go around the car and do all 4, you can just grab your microfiber towel, which is a little bit wet now anyway, and just wipe off the excess, so that when you go to drive you're not going to be flinging this material all over the car. Okay, so while waiting for that Tyre Shine to dry as well, we're just going to do a bit of a glass clean as well on the exterior of all the glass windows on the vehicle. So normally I use a product by Gion, which is a glass cleaner. Unfortunately I've run out of that product today and I've only got the Armour All glass cleaner as well, but look, they both do a great job. The main thing you're looking for in a glass cleaner is to make sure it's ammonia free. If you do use it on the interior, it's not going to affect the tint if there were any little cracks or holes in the tint. So anyway, we'll go ahead and just clean all the exterior glass.
So guys, that is the last step in a stage 1 clean of your 4x4. Let's see how this vehicle's turned out. So there you have it, guys. Look, this car is now cleaned, prepped after a pretty muddy and pretty intense off-road adventure last weekend. So very happy with the way it's turned out at the moment. Look, this is the first step in a full detail of the vehicle, and there will be another video coming out in a little bit in relation to how to properly detail, get rid of those swirls and scratches, and also how to protect your vehicle as well, whether that be a wax, ceramic coat, or whatever you choose to do. But this is definitely stage 1. So overall, pretty happy with how this has turned out. I hope this helped some of you guys in terms of coming up with some ideas, some products to use, and how to use them to ensure you get your 4-wheel drive looking like this. Now look, in the end, it is just that. It's a 4-wheel drive. It's going to hit the tracks. There are going to be scratches on it, but why not try and make it as good as possible and keep the paint as nice as we can while we can. So hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions and queries, hit us up on Facebook or Instagram at Exploring Oz. I'll be sure to get back to you. Otherwise, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.